Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 30th evening meeting of the Lincoln City Council. Let us all please rise for a pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone again. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of the business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meeting of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date, nor plan for a future agenda. And tonight is an open mic night. Teresa, can you please call the first item of business?
Yes, and just a reminder for the public, due to the Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day, the City Council will not meet on Monday, October 14th. We ask those of the general public coming forward to testify to please clearly state your name, spell your name, give your address, and sign in on the sign-in sheet lying on the podium. Testifiers may use either microphone, and there is a sign-in sheet by each microphone. We ask those individuals from city staff who are testifying to please state your name, title, and the department you work for. The first item of business is the public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 3. We have no appointments.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any of these items? Okay, seeing
If
none.
not, we can vote on the one item, which is 2A, which was introduced by Shobe.
So moved. Second.
Introduced by Shobe, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shobe?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are our public hearing liquor resolutions. Those coming forward to testify are asked to raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 4A and B together. They're the application of Bourbon Street by Single Barrel for a Class C and Class E liquor license at 350 Canopy Street, Suite 120, and the related manager application of Heath McComber. Hi, Heath. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Heath McCumber, 129 North 10th Street, number 301, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68508.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming down. Tell us a little bit about your application.
Basically, we're applying to take over the space that was previously the public market in the rail yard. As of now, we're just kind of operating kind of a bare bones operation due to the kind of late agreement in regards to the football season. So basically just opening as quickly as we can for the football season. The long-term plans haven't been completely finalized, but I can tell you that they're going to be restaurant-based. No really interest in opening up just a bar down there. So the easy part to explain probably would be it's either going to be an expansion on what current Bourbon Street does, which is basically just a few doors down from where we're opening this spot. It's either going to be an expansion of that service, so just adding more seats and more kitchen space, more storage space, because where we're operating right now is fairly small. But other than that, we have different concepts, all kind of fast casual restaurant concepts that we're trying to solidify the plans on. currently. So have meetings set up with the investors of the spot on Thursday, actually, and we should get a lot done then. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions? Yes, any?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming forward. There's always, I've seen many times in my time here where the organizations or the establishments in the rail yard are come and ask for an SDL, and then we have some type of disagreement on who's going to do what, where, and why. What's your working relationship with the other establishments there?
Just from being there with, this is our second year, full year with Bourbon Street. I don't have any personal or professional issues with any of our neighbors. I've talked with not probably talked to all the partners, but I've talked with either all the managers or managing partners and have a good working relationship, I feel. That's coming from my side. So we'll just kind of leave it at that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
Yes,
do.
Sandra.
Can you tell me what the other of your business partners, what their role will be? Are they simply investors, or do they?
I would say probably, well, two are probably simply investors. They're not really any role day to day. One would probably be, could have some day to day input, mainly because he has other businesses here in town. The other ones either travel a lot or just not, they just don't have any day-to-day input per se. But, so yeah, I could say that two of us will probably have more of the day-to-day operational say.
And would that other person be Jeff Morrow?
No, that won't. No.
Okay.
So Mr. Morrow will just strictly be an investor, correct?
Correct.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, we can go on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public hearing on liquor resolutions, so we can vote on these two items. You'll notice I did hand out prior to the meeting a motion to amend number 1 to accept a substitute resolution for 4A.
So moved. Second.
Moved to accept motion to amend by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis.
And the reason for the request is to include entertainment district conditions that apply on this license.
Did you want to come and talk on this? Next item? Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Jeff, do you want to explain the inclusion of this? Was it an oversight and should have been included?
Yes, it was. Jeff Kirkpatrick, City Attorney. This is part of the entertainment district, so this just holds this business to all the requirements of the entertainment district. You'll notice that this is a application not just for the Class C, but also for the Class E, which is being part of the entertainment district.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Please call the roll on motion to amend number 1.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
I move approval of items 4A and B.
Second.
Okay, moved approval of items 4A and B by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are our public hearing resolutions. Item 5A is authorizing the Parks and Recreation Department submittal of a grant application to the Federal Transit Administration to purchase a small bus with a chairlift to provide transportation for persons with Parkinson's disease to attend therapy and programs for Rocksteady Boxing.
Good evening, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. The action before the City Council this evening is a request to approve a resolution authorizing a submittal for a grant application for federal funding to purchase, I think the more accurate terminology is a minibus that we would use for transportation. This minibus would have 12 seats, it would have space for 2 wheelchairs, it would have a wheelchair lift. The primary use of it is going to be to provide transportation for people participating in the Rock Steady boxing program that is at the Air Park Recreation Center. That program was established in 2016. It is to provide therapeutic support for people who are living with, working with Parkinson's disease. We have about 20 to 24 participants in that program today. We have the capacity, we could grow that program to about 60 people. And so that's part of the intent of this grant application, is to provide a door-to-door shuttle service to provide people access to that program. I should note that there are about 2,500 people in Lancaster County who are suffering from Parkinson's disease, so there's certainly additional capacity out there to provide additional service to people in Lincoln and Lancaster County. We have identified the matching funds. This is an 80-20 grant fund, that 80% is federal funds, 20% would be city funds. We've identified the matching source. The operating expenses for the bus will be through user fees. And when it's not being used for the Rock Steady boxing program, we'll be able to use it for our other adaptive and therapeutic recreation programs as well, and perhaps kind of fill in during summer day camps. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Lynn, can you tell me, once we submit this grant application, looks like very generous funding from the federal government of 80%, and we would fund 20%. How soon would we hear, and how soon would we have purchased this van, or the minibus?
It's a good question. My understanding is that we should know sometime right after the first of the year. These minibuses, because they have to be outfitted with the lifts, apparently they take 6 months to almost 12 months sometime to procure. So as soon as we hear about it, we'll initiate that process. We've been through this recently because we have some of these minibuses in our fleet today, but they're a customized item and they do take a while to get delivered.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Lynn? Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this item? I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege. I failed to recognize the members from Scout Troop 30 here today that are sponsored by Grace Lutheran Church, and you're here working on your citizenship in the community badge, so you're welcome to be here. My apologies for not recognizing you sooner, so Teresa, if you could please go on to the next item.
Certainly. Item 5B is Comp Plan Conformance 19008, approving an amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan by adding the Campion Housing Project for construction of a 7-story, 340,000 square foot student housing building with covered parking and other amenities on property generally located from 9th to 10th L to M Streets. I will note for the record, we did have a request by the applicant to place this on pending no date certain. But if anybody is here that wishes to testify, they may do so.
I move that we place item 5B on pending no date certain.
Second.
Moved by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Was there anyone in the audience that wanted to testify on this item? Okay. Any discussion up here on the delay? Yes.
So we often have a conversation about the public hearing at the next time it comes up. Is this an
There will
automatic?
be.
Okay.
Yes,
And this was at the request of the applicant?
correct.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Okay,
For
let's,
clearing that up.
I guess we can vote on that item right now.
Okay, Shob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
and Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then is item 5C, Comp Plan Conformance 19010, approving an amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan by adding the Huber Building redevelopment project for renovation and rehabilitation to include 24,599 square feet of commercial use on the first floor and basement, approximately 6 dwelling units on the second floor, and a roof deck on property generally located at 803 Q Street.
Good evening. I'm Dan Marvin with Urban Development. I'm here on behalf of the Huber Building redevelopment project. And this is a project that's in the Haymarket District. And the plan is for this project to turn the second floor into residential, which would be a nice boost for the downtown. The process so far as the Huber project has gone through the Historic Preservation Commission on August 15th. They reviewed the design of the building, and on September 4th they went to the Planning Commission. They received a 9-0 vote in support and found it in conformance with the comp plan. On September 19th they went back to the Historic Preservation Commission, reviewed it, and recommended a certificate of appropriateness for the project. The designs that were showed, this right here is the original Huber building, which was, I think it was related to a tractor implements in the old Haymarket area. This is a view of the building. And then on the other side is a view of another direction. Right here is where From Nebraska is, and then Licorice International is down there, and they would open up the second floor for residential and then have a roof deck on top of the building. As I said, it went through Planning Commission. They found it in conformance with the comp plan. And Ann Post is here, available to address any questions you might have on the project, too. Do you have any questions?
Dan, can you tell us what currently is being used on the second floor? What is that use?
I think there was a theater on the second floor at one time. They have relocated to a different location, and I think it's unoccupied.
Unoccupied, okay. And I guess will that be, any work on the second floor, will it be disruptive to the retail tenants on the first floor?
I don't believe so. I think there probably some banging and some noise going on, but I think they can manage. I think Licorice International is going to relocate to a different place in the Haymarket, and I always like to frequent that because I have a taste for licorice. But they will, From Nebraska, I think, will expand into that location as well. So they have a tenant on the first floor, and then they would just be looking at rehabbing the second floor for residential uses. We'll be coming forward with a redevelopment agreement probably later this month, and well, actually next month because it's the 30th of September. But we should be coming forward with a redevelopment agreement later in October that would spell out the uses, the sources and uses for the tax increment financing for the project.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. So all we are voting on tonight is a comprehensive plan conformance with this downtown
Correct.
master plan and such. And then I noticed in here also there's a lot of right-of-way even to the, I guess, the east side of 9th Street that will be included in this redevelopment project?
So what we've done is we've included the alleyway that's behind the building.
Right.
Alleys are a difficult thing to finance. So we would long-term be able to use some of the increment to help repave the alleyway that's back behind the building. And then we would include the building itself and then some of the streetscape around the building as well.
Okay, and then also on the east side of 9th Street?
On the east side?
Yeah, it looks like you go all the way up to the Journal-Star building with your redevelopment.
Right. I think that's just our as you will see when we bring forward the redevelopment agreement, our primary focus will be on the alley, and I don't expect funds beyond that to be able to go to much other than that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Ann Post. I'm an attorney with Baylor Emden Law Firm. I'm here today on behalf of BFP LLC. And next to me, I have Mr. Russ Baer, who is the developer for this project. But here is a rendering, which is at a slightly more angle than the rendering that Mr. Marvin had. So as he described, what we are doing with this proposed project is to maintain commercial space on the first floor and to develop 6 condominium units on the second floor. So that is bringing owner-occupied housing to the Haymarket area. And then some of the unique features of this are going to be that there is a rooftop deck. So not only is there a rooftop deck, that is a wonderful amenity, but something we've seen before. Something to draw over here, you'll see our spaces for there will be a larger space for common use by all the members. Also, each unit owner will have a small private space on the rooftop. So that means you can keep their grill up there. They can have a little bit of privacy to enjoy that space by themselves. Let's see. And then another reason we're excited about this project, we're bringing owner-occupied housing to the Haymarket. It is close to the arena, but it's also it's not right there. You can benefit from the energy of the arena and all the events, but when you want to actually retreat to your own abode and relax a little bit, you've got enough distance. So it's the perfect distance for that. And with this project, I know it's very important to our developer, and what we strive to do is to balance both the historic nature of the building while also breathing new life into that. So if you look at this rendering, you say, well, that rooftop deck looks great, but other than that, I don't see a whole lot of change. And that's the point. Some of the things that we have, you'll notice we've maintained the historic ghost signage on the building. That's important that we plan to maintain. While replacing the windows, I think there are block windows there now. We're going to replace those with windows that are more amenable to our give better views to our unit owners. And so in that, and also with the rooftop deck, that is a new space on the top. So we have done everything we can to balance the old while breathing life into the new. And so a few of the things that, the amenities that we are planning to do, a few of the things we're planning to incorporate into a redevelopment agreement will include repointing for the entire building. The building needs updated. It needs mortar in between the bricks so the building doesn't leak. Also, there is that replacement of the windows, and so that are all going to be necessary to update this historic building. And so with that, I will open it up if you have any questions. Also, if we have any questions of Mr. Baer here that we can help answer for you.
Parking is very important. Can you tell me a little bit about parking for these units?
We are working with the Urban Development Department to see if we can secure parking in area garages as a part of the redevelopment agreement.
It's frankly one of the reasons the theater needed to find another location. They did a lot of children's theater classes. Can't do that on football Saturdays, event days, and those types of things. So they found a great location down in South Lincoln.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So in terms of the theater, were they moving out before you decided to redevelop, or were they thinking about it anyway? I just can't recall the timing.
Well, I can't tell if they were thinking about it, but I do know they were thinking about it. Our family bought the building in 1998 for one reason only. That was to put a theater on the second floor. And at the time, we wanted, I was partnering with some folks, and we had a very nice dinner theater concept. We couldn't get the children's theater aspect of it going. So some folks came in. Fred Stewart came in and was able to get the children's theater going. Got going so well, again, because of the parking issues and the cost of the space. And it's not like Gwen and I were doing a lot of charging to the space, like $3 a square foot. But if you know anything else, what's going on down there, it's a lot more than $3 a square foot. It really became a point of it's time to move. So at our last renewal, which was 4.5 years ago, I told them I would give them 13 months notice. We visited last fall, and I said, what do you think? And it's sometimes you got to push people to make the right decision. And we then made the decision that we were going to stop at that point and find a different tenant. So I'll tell you, you could say that we moved them out after 21 years, which was very difficult for us to do. But they're very happy about that now, and we're at a place, we didn't really make the decision about what we're doing with it right now until our conversations in 3 or 4 months later.
So it sounds very amicable.
Very amicable.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you
also
very
to summarize that they're not relocating because of this project, but their relocation is, makes space for this project.
Very good. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Is any work going to be done in the tractor building
That-
next door, the restaurant?
No, that's where Screamers is located
Right.
right now. And years ago, we brought Arturo's back downtown, for those of you that have a long history of our community. And you bet, unfortunately, that didn't work out for them in the long run, but that's okay. That's when we did all of the work on that space. The kitchen for the Screamers, which if you haven't been there, go, it's really very good, is actually in the main building. One of the things that we are doing to the buildings, we're going to take out this freight elevator that is being run today by like a 1930s streetcar motor and those types of things. But it's not needed anymore in that portion of the building, which will give a little more use from Nebraska to that floor space and then the top floor space as we develop that as well.
Great, wonderful. Well, it sounds like a very exciting project for the Haymarket.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's go on to the next.
All right, I'll call item 5D, accepting a report of new and pending claims against the city for September 1st through the 15th. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward on a claim against the city?
Okay, anyone? All right.
All right.
Don't see anyone. Let's move on.
We'll go on to item 5E, appeal of Kent Dodson and Ann Post on behalf of Stevens Creek Point Homeowners Association of Planning Commission's approval of special permit 19036 for a large solar energy conversion system for up to 230 megawatts on approximately 1,100 acres with associated waivers to setbacks on property generally located within a corridor along both sides of North 134th Street from north of O Street to south of Adams Street.
Roy?
There's been a request by the applicant to withdraw this, but I have a question of the city attorney about what this means. I think I know what this means, but let's clarify.
I appreciate the question. Jeff Kirkpatrick, City Attorney. So when you have an appeal that places the item that came from the Planning Commission on the agenda, which ordinarily wouldn't have been on the City Council agenda. However, once the appeal is made and it's placed on the agenda, then you treat it like you would anything else on the agenda. And so to vote yes doesn't mean you're voting for the appeal. It means you're voting to allow the project to go forward. And a vote no would be against allowing the project to go forward.
Right, but in this case, we've been asked to withdraw this, to remove this from our agenda at the request of the applicant. So once we do that, it is no longer before this council for a vote up or down, correct?
I would think the cleanest thing to do is just a vote up or down on it today because it is on your agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Tim.
Tim C., City Attorney's Office. There are actually 2 appeals before you tonight.
Okay.
I believe one of those is being withdrawn. I don't know about the second one. So I think the appeal from Ms. Post is being withdrawn, but I believe there's a second appeal from Mr. Dodson, and I have no knowledge that that has been withdrawn or if there's any request to withdraw that. So I think we still need to take up Mr. Dodson's appeal. And so I think ordinarily we would have the applicant go first. In other words, the applicant for the special permit go first, make their presentation, and then Mr. Dodd and allow the public testimony to come forward from there.
So how do we know what part of this is which?
Or do we need to treat both of them just as you said? Go ahead and have the public hearing as we normally would?
Right. So what's really before you is a new application, sort of. The special permit goes to Planning Commission. They make a vote. If it's appealed, all that means is it goes to the City Council, and the City Council now hears it, I think the ordinance says as anew, or as if it's never been heard before, with the one exception being that you can take the vote of the Planning Commission as a recommendation. But really, it's as if this is a new application at this point that's solely being considered by the city council.
So Tim, so to move forward, do we go ahead and vote on the withdrawal request of the appeal by Ms. Post, and then proceed with the public hearing on the issue before us?
I suppose technically you could vote to accept the withdrawal. I don't know that the effect of that is much.
Yeah, I was going to say, typically we don't vote on the withdrawal of an appeal. We would vote if they were withdrawing the item altogether.
Yes, I mean, the importance of the appeal is it puts it on your agenda. So you could have 100 people appealing, wouldn't matter, it just goes on your agenda once. And so if you have 2 people appealing, put it on the agenda, but the fact that one person withdrew doesn't affect its position on the agenda.
So we should still have the public hearing and vote
Correct.
Absolutely.
yes or no on the special permit.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you for clearing
Thank
that
you.
up for
Yes.
all of us.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion and vote.
Yes,
Thank you
thank you
very
so
much.
much. And we will come and get you once the discussion and public hearing has ended.
Yeah.
She is stepping down for a potential conflict of interest. So let's proceed forward with the public hearing. And typically we have the proponents, those in favor of it, come and speak about the project first. So please go ahead and come forward and be sure and sign in on the pink sheets.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Colin Snow with Ranger Power, address 500 South 4th Street, Eagle, Nebraska, 68347. I was going to ask if I could share, if I could go speak, have the 5-minute allowance, and then share that with my attorney, David Levy, here to speak after, share a 10-minute, hopefully less time period. That's
Yes,
okay?
since you're presenting the project, we will accept that.
Thank you.
I also have a PowerPoint that I should, like I do beforehand. Where should I put that in?
Yeah. I think we need a laptop for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually do have one.
Do we need to my laptop?
I don't know if that'll plug into our system.
Got one coming.
We do have a laptop coming, I believe, from our technical department.
Here he comes.
Here
Thank
comes
you so much. I'm sorry about that.
Jamie to the rescue.
Always.
Thank you so much. Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me get out of your way.
Jamie went, everybody.
Yes.
Obviously, he was listening to the proceedings, not just watching our faces.
We knew that.
Yes.
We knew that. Yes, sir. I think that's good. Yes.
Not on the appeal, but on the whole project.
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe that would be a little bit
We
out of
voted
order.
anyway?
Sure, that's okay.
It'll come to us?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I might, while they're doing that, I'd just introduce myself, David Levy, Baird Home Law Firm, 1700 Farnham Street, on behalf of the applicant. Also, I just do want to clarify for the record, the discussion previously, I think, got to the right place, and I appreciate all that. There was a statement a couple of times that the applicant had asked to withdraw, and the applicant has not asked to withdraw. It was the appellant who asked to withdraw the appeal. So, again, I think we got to the right place. I think that's clear, but I just want the record to reflect that the applicant absolutely does not want to withdraw their application, and we appreciate the opportunity to go forward here tonight. Apologize for the laptop, appreciate the quick laptop, and I'll turn it back over to Colin.
Thank you all so much for your time. I'll try to keep it brief. My name is Colin Snow, as I said. I work for a utility scale solar developer called Ranger Power. Let's see if I can get this. Nope. There we go. We specialize in developing utility scale solar projects, all within the Midwest. We have over 20 projects in development right now with in 7 states, with over 1,500 megawatts of successfully permitted projects to date. We have sold some of the most megawatts of solar in the Midwest in the past 2 years. That's who we are. Solar energy at a glance. This is just to explain the basic structure of our projects across our entire portfolio. We use photovoltaic trackers. These are single-axis trackers that are mounted on top of a very simple racking system. Steel I-beams punched into the ground, and the PV trackers follow the sun through the day. PV trackers operate without producing pollution or greenhouse gases. There's the racking system, there's the panels, there's the buried collector lines, there's a fence around the project, and that's the basic structure of all of our projects across our portfolio. The proposed project is no exception to this. Salt Creek Solar is a proposed 230 megawatt solar project located on approximately 1,000 acres of privately owned land in East Lincoln. It is sited around the Wagoner substation there, which has the advantage of obviating the need of building costly transmission lines to get the power to existing infrastructure, and has the added advantage of being close to the largest load centers in the state. So the majority of potential users for the power are located close to the project. The last benefit to the project's location is the City of Lincoln's comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance that promote the responsible development of these large-scale solar farms. This project has a unique characteristic of having several of the large percentage of the participating landowners to the project living within the project area. This has been a really exciting area to work in. And I have spent a lot of time out talking with the people who live in the area. So besides the landowners, there are several people in the neighborhood who are really excited about the project coming their way. I've knocked on most doors in the area and had over 40 meetings with people who live in the immediate environs of the proposed project. We've been lucky enough to meet with local stakeholders, community leaders, in business, school, and government in Lincoln. We held an open house on July 22nd that was really well attended. And through all of these meetings, we've been able to solicit really great feedback that we've been able to incorporate into the permit that you see in front of you. And I'm very proud to say we've gotten a lot of support for this project over...
1 minute.
Thank you. Some of the people are here tonight who have supported the project to date. And I just have to say thank you again to the Lincoln community. It's been a great place to develop this project. And I'd love to turn the floor over to David at this point, if that's all right.
Thank you. You go to
Sure.
All right, thank you. As Colin mentioned, again, David Levy, Baird Home Law Firm, 1700 Farnham Street, on behalf of the applicant. Colin mentioned the City of Lincoln's comprehensive plan and how it seeks and envisions and supports the development of large-scale renewable energy projects, including solar projects in the city. You have a long list of goals and policies from the comprehensive plan and the staff report as well, with which this project is consistent. I won't read these to you, but suffice it to say that this project is highly consistent with the comprehensive plan of the City of Lincoln. Colin, would you go to the next? Also, this project complies with the City of Lincoln's municipal code and specifically its ordinance for a solar project. The system uses photovoltaics, as Colin described, to generate solar energy. Complies with the visual screening requirements set forth by the Planning Commission and includes a decommissioning plan and a proposal to submit a decommissioning bond to provide financial security for the net decommissioning costs at the appropriate time. Project setbacks, this is the one place where this project does ask for exceptions, and I'll slow down here and talk a little bit more in detail about this. The city's solar ordinance basically says that the project will comply with the applicable setbacks in the district. Those setbacks really were written for other types of land uses, like a house or something like that. And so they have a smaller setback for a front yard, a different setback for a side yard, and a bigger setback for a rear yard. As we looked at this, we came to conclude that that didn't really fit this project. And when you really looked at what you're doing with a setback, which is trying to protect neighboring landowners, the thing that made the most sense was to have the biggest setback between the project and a non-participating property with a house on it. So in that case, the setback that we've proposed and the Planning Commission supported is a 100-foot setback, which could be bigger than twice as big even as the front yard setback required in the code. 50-foot setbacks for non-participating properties without a house, participating properties without a house, and then no setback for a participating project without a house. The theory being that that's an agricultural parcel, a farmed parcel. The owner of that parcel is a participant in the project, has a contractual agreement with the project, and so it really doesn't make sense to have a setback in those cases. So that's the setback proposal, and again, the Planning Commission did support that unanimously. Community benefits, again, this is a $230 million or more investment in Lancaster County and the city of Lincoln. Very significant project. At full capacity, the project will generate over $800,000 per year in new property tax revenues that will be distributed to the taxing jurisdictions and entities, just like any other project would. Improves air quality by reducing regional reliance on fossil fuel generation, and you can see the numerous other benefits there. And again, furthers the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan and complies with the city's zoning ordinance. Staff report noted a number of findings of fact. We wanted to make sure that these were in the presentation and in the council's record of the proceeding. The Planning Commission did approve, and as it's now come to you, that's a recommendation of approval, I suppose I would say, by an 8-0 vote early this month. And again, you can see the other items there. The proposed vegetative buffer and setbacks mitigate the impacts on surrounding property owners, furthers the goals of the comprehensive plan, and meets all of the conditions of the special permit as set out by the ordinance and the Planning Commission and Planning Department. Again, legal compliance and findings. 1 minute? Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. You can see those there, and for all of those foregoing reasons, Salt Creek Solar does respectfully request the City Council's approval of the project with the conditions that the Planning Commission adopted and with the setback waivers that they've requested and that I've described. I know we are out of time. We do have some pictures and diagrams that I'd be happy to go through with you briefly if that would be helpful, or we can hold those and take any questions you might have.
Well, I would certainly like to see additional photos of the project or similar projects that you have.
Sure, well, thank you. We'll be brief. So this is an example of the visual screening. You see the tall trees, sort of uniform trees back there behind that house. Beyond those, it's difficult to see, but it's the solar panels themselves. So that's an example of that would be a house nearby to the project, adjacent to the project, with the screening that the Planning Commission had requested or required.
Sorry, may I jump in? Colin Snow, do I say my address again?
No.
Oh, no, okay, Colin Snow.
You got us.
I just want to say, this is an example of our vegetative buffering plan. This is a visual simulation, so the trees that you see between the panels and the house are what we expect to put on the project parcel. The trees to the left are already in existence and provide their own screen of any panels on the other side of them.
You can go to the next.
These are examples of the project in construction. I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the top left photo. We do anticipate seeding the land before construction. It helps with stormwater runoff.
And actually, just before Colin goes on, the picture on the right also, of course, is a picture of the installation of the solar panels, but it gives you a good idea of their size and their height. A single solar panel is something that an individual can pick up and carry around, and at full tilt, if you will, so first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening, is that position that you see there, and that's how tall they would be, just a little bit taller than a standing adult.
Here you see the equipment that I described earlier. The inverters that you see before you are used every 2.5 to 5 megawatts. And are placed within the project area, far from any of the project boundary. Any questions on any of this?
What is the height of the inverter?
Oh, the inverter, typically 6 feet. They might get a little taller than that, but it also depends on their support. Sometimes they're on racking systems that can give them an extra couple inches.
Yeah, one more, or is that it?
Sorry. An important part of these projects is the spacing between the panels. This allows, as you can see, kind of travel between the rows of the panels, which again helps with maintaining the ground cover and prevents shading and promotes maintenance of the project.
Any questions for us?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Your last image was of a vehicle driving between the panels, and you mentioned maintenance. So I'm a little concerned about, you're going to plant panels and then walk away. Will there be someone on site? What happens after that?
Thank you. That's a great question. The construction phase of the project is manpower heavy. A project like this comes with over 300 jobs during that phase, but it's a short phase. And then for the life of the project, once it's in production, we anticipate about 4 to 6 full-time jobs associated with the project, and their job is just what you described, to be on hand at all times for maintenance, mowing, any repairs, anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you address the timeline, please, of the project? So you're before us today.
Yes.
If it gets approved, then what's next?
What's next is the shortest story is that we are, all of these steps are in service of selling the power. And that also, the reason I bring that up is that determines the timeline at the end of the day. When people want the power is when we start construction, or we backdate it off of that. However, there are advantages to this power being purchased for construction within the 2021 to 2023 window. That's what we anticipate at this time.
Can I just add to that, if I might? You might be saying, okay, wait a minute, so you don't know when you're going to build this or when you're going to sell the power. Why are you here taking our time this evening? Having the city's approval of this project is a significant step in making the project marketable. So not having this approval and going out and trying to market the project you're at a disadvantage. If you have this approval, you're out marketing the project. Now you can say, okay, we've cleared one of the major hurdles, one of the major risk points, discretionary governmental approval in this project. So this is a huge step in making this project marketable, and that's why we're here at what otherwise might seem early in the process.
Yes, Roy.
Well, obviously, not everybody's thrilled about this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now talking about this. So can you describe for me the relationship you've had with those property owners who are adjacent to this project, who oppose this? What's been your interaction with them? Have there been compromises? How do you view that process?
Thank you for bringing that up. As I mentioned, it's been a really great experience. We spent a lot of time out with the neighbors to the proposed project. There, are still neighbors that we have been talking to who are here today who do oppose the project, and they've been great to talk to today, and we hope to continue to talk with them. There were neighbors again, who were not excited about the project and spoke against the project at Planning Commission. We were able to kind of mitigate their concerns in a way that actually allowed them to take themselves out of the appeal today. So all that's to say, we received an 8-0 approval by the Planning Commission, but that did not stop us from wanting to committing to working with people in the neighborhood, and we hope to continue to do so, no matter what happens today.
Have you made any concessions to how you're going to proceed with your project?
We have, and they are significant for the cost of the investment of the project and for the participating landowners. They were not easily made. They are, I'd rather not enter the details if that's all right, but we were able to meet the neighbors halfway, we feel, and they feel, and so, you know, I think we're in a good position with these neighbors in particular. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. And we would like to start those that came
Thank
here
you.
for public hearing. To go ahead, those that are going to be speaking in favor of this project, could you please come forward and provide your testimony?
Somebody needs to come forward.
Commissioner Flowerday, no? Okay. All right.
This is 1 page long.
No fights over who's going first here, I guess. Dan Griffith, 13990 Adams Street. Obviously, I'm in favor of this, and I kind of wanted to bring this point forward. Those of us who signed up for this project, we're taking full responsibility in tackling climate change, and right here at home in Lancaster County, and we all must act now. For those of you who are still questioning the science behind climate change, I ask you this question. Can we afford to be wrong? And this includes all life forms. Can we afford to be wrong? That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Commissioner Flowerday.
Thank you much. Yeah. My name is Sean Flowerday, 2901 A Street, Unit 106. I'm also a Lancaster County Commissioner. I come here to speak for you today to speak on behalf of this. I'll keep my testimony short because I'm pretty sympathetic to sitting up there during long hearings. At a time when Nebraska was the only state in the nation from 2006 to 2016 to see an increased use in coal, I don't see how we can turn our backs on new sources of clean energy and new revenue for our community. I just got done approving a budget for our county. We had to raise property taxes by $2.1 million for the taxpayers. That's going to be the net effect on what they feel. $800,000 could have gone a long way to offsetting that. Obviously, it's not all going to go to county by any means, but we can use it in our county, we can use it in our city, we can use it in our schools. That's we had to deny 10 full-time employees requests this year. That would have been about $700,000. That's, when I hear that number, that's more officers out on the road keeping people safe. That's more school teachers teaching our children. That's a big boon to our local community, our local government. So I think this is a great project. I think they've worked well with the neighbors, and I really hope that the council sees fit to approve it. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions? Be sure and sign in, please.
Thanks much.
Thanks, Commish.
Happy to be here.
Can I fill this out afterward?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I'm Marilyn McNabb. I live at 1701 West Rose Street. I'm speaking here for the project and for the Lincoln chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. We advocate for public policy choices that will reduce and then end greenhouse gas emissions. You may have seen that Dr. James Hansen, who it's probably fair to say is the most eminent climate scientist in the country, was quoted in the World Herald today about his speech yesterday in Omaha. He talked about the extreme weather in Nebraska and Iowa, his home state, and said that there will be more extreme weather because of climate change. I'm quoting the World Herald today, the report of his speech. Excuse me. I don't know what happens to my throat when I speak in public, but something does. Quote, "The world needs energy," he said. "Fossil fuels," he noted, "lifted the developed world out of poverty. Now, though, the path forward is for the U.S. to put a price on fossil fuels that reflects their true cost to society," end quote. The path of putting a price on pollution leads straight to the rapid expansion of solar, wind, and geothermal energy generation. And when that happens, Nebraska will see wind and solar companies making large investments across the state. We have very, very good wind and very good solar yet to be developed in Nebraska. We're 13th in solar power potential among the states, but 44th in actual production. Citizens Climate Lobby hopes and believes you'll be moving Lincoln forward on energy and climate. Elected officials at all levels have to make good decisions quickly to address this problem. We're hopeful that you will advance the application for this large solar project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNabb. Are there any questions for Ms. McNabb? Thank you for testifying. Next testifier. Welcome, Mr. Hanson.
Mr. Hanson, you can use the microphone. Yeah.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Hanson, and I am the president of Nebraska Farmers Union. Our address is 1305 Plum Street. We are here this evening in support of this application. We appeared September 4th before the Planning Commission and supported the application there as well. What I've given you is the latest, as of September 12th, 2018, map with the existing solar projects in Nebraska as well as the pending ones. This map is in the process of being updated and should be out within a week of having new ones. I know of some other new community solar projects. This would be, proposed project would be by far, of course, the largest project. It would be the really advent of really industrial commercial scale solar development. In my other job, I'm the chair of the Nebraska Wind and Solar Conference. So we have been bringing information forward about the latest and best information on wind and solar for some time since 2008. And so we really think we're just on the cusp of moving forward with commercial solar. The prices come down and things have coming together, so these things are viable. So this is in our view, a well-sited project. It is a constructive project. And of course, wearing my Farmers Union hat, the fact that landowners in this project are going to get over $1,000 an acre, that is a lot of additional farm income. It's value-added income as far as we're concerned. We already own the natural resource. So anytime that we can do value-added in agriculture where you build on what you already have, that's a positive thing. The $800,000 of new additional tax revenue comes from a good source. It's clean burning. It doesn't emit carbon. It doesn't use water. It builds on our Nebraska natural resources. And so we would encourage you to think favorably of this and encourage you to vote yes on the application. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hanson? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Next individual, please. Welcome.
My name is Jason Kreeser. I'm from Dallas, Texas, but I'm a product of the area. And along with my father, we own some of the parcels that are participating acres in the project. I think I have the benefit of knowing Ranger longer than probably anyone in the room because it was actually Ranger that reached out to us first about the project due to the proximity around the Wagner substation. I have found Ranger to be a good partner in this process, a good steward of the land, very interested in knowing how compromise could be reached with opposition to the project. I attended the open house that they held in the summer, and that was important to them. That was not just a step in the process. It was important to engage with the community, and I commend them for that. One of the things that I learned from my father, who sat in those chairs for 9 years as a planning commission member, was, and I'll be brief because I also want to be sensitive to sitting in the chairs. But a big project like this takes compromise. It takes partnership. There are There are going to be proponents and opponents to a big project like this, and I think Ranger would be a good partner for a long time, and a project like this would require that, not only of Ranger, but also of the other participants in the project. I mentioned I was a product of the area. It would be a source of pride that I went to Waverly High School. My mother was a teacher at Hamlin Elementary in Waverly for 30 years. It would be great to see the school district benefit from this particular project as well. Thank you for your consideration of the project.
Thank you very much for coming. Next testifier, please.
Hello, my name is Ruth Ann Thompson, and I am a participating property owner at 2400 North 134th Street. I'm anticipating that there are acreage owners that are concerned about a potential decrease in their property values and enjoyment of their properties due to the proximity to this project. From my personal experience with the 100 solar panels that we have on our property, I can report that there is no noise. You can stand right next to the inverter. There is no noise. They require no maintenance. We've had them running for almost 4 years. And in fact, they sustained no damage at all from the recent hailstorm, which shattered the windshield of my car, broke a window on our house, cracked the fiberglass on our RV trailer, and totaled our roof. So the solar panels work just fine. There were no cracks, no dents. So they're very durable. With only 4 to 6 anticipated permanent employees, there will be minimal traffic and wear and tear on our roads. Now, we currently have a business approximately 1.5 miles from our residence and immediately adjacent to this project, which has greatly impacted traffic on our road and had considerable impact on our enjoyment and the value of our property because of the noise it produces. Open 7 days a week, it intermittently produces 60 to 85 decibel impact noise, which makes it nearly impossible for us to open our windows, let alone host guests to enjoy our considerable investments in our patio, pond, gardens, and property in general, which we have had for the 15 years prior to this business opening. I would suggest that if this body had a permit process such as this one for a commercial outdoor firearms range, this chamber would be filled by the property owners who wish to share the negative experiences and the impacts that we have already endured in our neighborhood. Thank you for considering this project. It will be a great boon to our neighborhood and to us as property owners. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down to testify. Any questions for Ms. Thompson? Thank you again. Next testifier in favor of this project, please step forward. Any others in favor of the project? Okay, could we have those who are opposed to this project please step forward and testify? Please come on down, and we do ask that you sign in on the pink sheets on either podium. If there are others that wish to testify against the project, could you please come down in one of the front rows so we'll keep it moving? Thank you.
Kent Dotson, address of 14920 Plum Ridge Road. I will be living directly across the street from where the solar project is going. I want everybody to know I'm not against solar power. And I want to commend Mr. Snow. He's been very helpful trying to approach me and talk about stuff, but I think this project is going in the wrong area. I've been doing a little research. The city of Lincoln owns 2 sections of ground out north of Lincoln by the dump. I don't know why it can't go out there. Okay, they're going to pay $1,000 an acre to these people. You're renting city, I don't know what for, $300 an acre to a farmer. Why not Ranger Power rent it for $750? They get a good deal. City of Lincoln gets a good deal, and you don't destroy all those houses out there. That's all I got to say.
Are there any questions for Mr. Dodson? Thank you very much for coming down. We appreciate that. Is there anyone else that would like to testify against this project? Okay, seeing none, would the introducers like to have a short rebuttal on anything?
Hi, Colin Snow here, Ranger Power. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for taking time for us today. As we said earlier, Lincoln has been a great place to develop this project. We're really excited to be here, and really look forward to continuing to work with everyone in the neighborhood to make this project as good a neighbor as possible. We intend to be here for some time and want to be a good neighbor for the length of that time. Dr. Dodson, has been great to work with, and we'll continue to talk with everyone in the area. Thank you.
Mr. Levy?
Nothing further. Thank you very much. Again, we appreciate your consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
I don't have a question, but just to get an idea, I'd like to see people stand up if they're in favor of the project.
Okay, could those in favor of the project please stand up? We'll do a quick count. Okay, and those that are opposed to the project, could you also please stand? Okay. Thank you very much. I think we have some questions of the planning staff, so thank you all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
And Steve, could you come up for the planning to answer some questions? Or, David Carey, I didn't see. David was right behind you.
Steve Hendrickson, the Planning Department.
Okay, Bennett, would you like to?
David Carey with the Planning Department.
Thank you both for coming forward. I'm a little confused. I think maybe the public might be also. This project is in Lancaster County, and there's some questions about the 3-mile jurisdiction. Can you explain that, why this came to the city?
Sure.
Just some procedural things?
Yes, so any item that is within the 3 miles out from the current city limits, that's considered the City of Lincoln's 3-mile jurisdictional limit. So any projects or proposals that come in that area is under the jurisdiction of the city, and therefore the city's zoning code applies and other applicable rules and regulations. So this project is entirely in the 3-mile zoning jurisdiction of the City of Lincoln. So that is why it is before you and not the county commissioners.
So if there had not been an appeal, would your recommendation from the Planning Commission been all they would have needed to go forward with this project?
Yes.
Thank you.
Richard.
Yeah, thank you for coming up here a little bit. This is a special use permit, is that correct, or?
Special permit, yes.
A special permit, and it stays with this company, or can it be transferred? If they
It runs with a property, so if a different company purchased these contracts, then it would go to that company, but it basically stays with the land.
With the land.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted to add to it, was there administrative way to add?
Administratively, we can't increase the boundary of a special permit, so any additions to it would have to come back at least through the Planning Commission.
Okay. And then there is no timeline on this. This will be now on these properties forever, correct?
Correct, until it is rescinded, if the applicant ever at some point wants to rescind it.
So the applicant is Ranger Power, or is the applicant the owners of the property?
It runs with the property, and so it goes from, you have the property owners and you have the contract holders. I think in most of these cases, the applicant is not actually purchasing the property, but purchasing a long-term contract. So the special permit stays with the property. Typically, it might be at some point if the contract expired, for instance, a property owner at that point might ask for it to be rescinded. But I believe they have fairly long-term contracts in this case.
Can the property owner rescind prior to the contract, if they wanted to?
It could be requested. Certainly we would, if the company was still actively operating it, we would check with the company prior to actually rescinding it.
So
Usually
the company would have the rights to keep the special use permit over a property owner?
Again, to clarify, it'd only be if you wanted to rescind it because it was not actually there. If the solar panels are on the site, then you could not rescind the conditions of the special permit.
So a property owner couldn't rescind the
Not
special
if
use
that
permit?
exists. But in other words, typically we've had in the past somebody get an application for a daycare. They run a daycare on their house for 10 years. They sell the house, the daycare moves. The new owner comes in and says, I'm not running a daycare here anymore. I'd like to get this special permit off my property. They ask for it to be rescinded so they can get a building permit to do something else.
Okay. A couple quick questions about the area. This area is it's in the Stevens Creek watershed, correct? So at some point it could be sewerable. And I see that it's in the Tier 2 at this point, and most of it, some of it might be in Tier 3.
Right.
Also.
Yeah, it's split. It's on the eastern side of Stevens Creek, so it is either toward the very end of Tier 2 timeframe or into Tier 3, but it is beyond our 20-year growth period, so it'd be somewhere more like 30 to 40 years out.
Yeah, same thing we said about Tier 1 and some of the priority areas that were going to be 20 years, and we're starting to build at them today.
Yeah, I think that the current setup of the tier system would suggest that this area is going to be in the longer-term time frame of our urbanization of the area. Certainly that can change, but I would go back to the fact that this setup, if the highest and best use of this land turns out to be more of a full-blown suburban development at some point, that this is the type of project that can be decommissioned. Certainly is much more readily than some other uses that could be out there with structures that are more permanently affixed to the land. So there is some benefit to a project like this, given the question about will this land be developed ultimately or not.
The decommissioning, there's a bond that will be put out there eventually, and you decided they negotiated until year 15 before they have to put a bond out?
That is correct. Basically, it was based on an analysis that showed day one, once it is built, the value of the panels, even when you have a cost to remove the panels, the value of the panels far exceeds the cost to remove them. Over time, of course, the values of the panels perhaps decrease, but you even come to a point where ultimately, let's say it's now cost more to remove them than it does that their market value for salvage. Of course, they are sitting there still generating energy. And so really in the long term, even if Ranger Power went out of business and somebody else bought the land, somebody else has made all of this investment and you have these panels still generating energy. And so there'd really be quite a lot of value to the property. Even at that point, it cost a lot to remove them compared to their salvage value. Think of our LES wind turbines up north of the interstate. They're 15 plus years old. There's certainly newer technology for wind turbines, but yet they have a value to LES who originally purchased them, and they're still generating energy.
Well, and overall, I think solar energy is a lot less intrusive than wind energy. So I feel comfortable enough that if somebody's going to go out and build next to a solar farm, they know what they're getting a lot more than if they had the wind energy. So I think this will help overall for the area. I just wish we could annex it and get the property tax, but that's another day, right?
Careful.
It's coming. It's
Careful.
coming.
Waverly will be very happy with me, will they?
Yeah. David and Steve, Mr. Dodson had raised a question about the expansion over by our landfill. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that land is reserved for when we expand the landfill because our city is a growing city.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
So there's
Okay.
a future purpose to that, and that's a very smart thing to have that in reserve. The siting of landfills is a difficult process for any community, and so the fact that we have many decades of expansion out there still to go in our growing city, that's a very good thing, so we wouldn't necessarily want to preclude that from happening.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Last call for anyone that would like to testify on this item. If not, we're going to go a little bit out of order and vote on this so that we can bring back our Councilwoman Ward.
Yes.
Jeff, do you want to just clarify one more time what we're voting on and what an affirmative vote means?
Jeffrey Patrick, City Attorney, you're voting on the permit. So if you vote yes, you're voting to allow the solar farm to be permitted on this site. If you vote no, you're saying you don't want the solar farm sited there.
Great, thank you very much.
For both items.
Okay, Roy.
Well, we have to go into the voting session, never mind.
Yes, we're going to go in the voting session on this item. Any other discussion by anyone?
I think this is,
We have to close public hearing and then enter the voting session.
Okay, we are closing public hearing right now, and we will
We'll
go
vote on
in-
these items. So item 5E is special permit 19036, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
second.
Introduced by McGinnis
Discussion?
and seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? Roy?
Yes. Well, there's two sides to every question. And the one side is, we've got neighbors that object. And by the way, I have a personal and professional relationship with some of the people who object. And they've spoken to me about this. I get it. I get their opposition. I have a personal heartburn with the idea that none of the people who are affected directly by this project and their neighbors of this project have any political representation here at council or on the planning commission. That kind of sounds un-American to me. I just really dislike it. It sits sideways for me. Don't like it much. But I don't have another alternative because here we are. We got to vote. On the other side, this project conforms with the comprehensive plan. It has economic benefit and it has environmental benefits. It's a tough decision, especially knowing the people I know who are directly involved, but I'm going to support this.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I'm really pleased that there is a project before us that moves Lincoln in the direction of becoming more resilient to our energy needs. Having sat on the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission, I do know that there is representation for the entire county on that board. It's not just for the city of Lincoln. And I do trust my former colleagues on the Planning Commission. I know these things, these issues are very difficult, and I read their testimony completely. I read the comments of folks who stood in opposition, and I was glad to see that many of these comments were resolved by Ranger Power before they came forward today. I hope that the communication avenues are kept open, and that as this project goes forward, if it goes forward, that if you have a problem with that, that you reach out to Ranger Power. And I would expect them to be cognizant of their neighbors' concerns and work with them to resolve anything that comes up in the future.
I just want to clarify one thing. When I say there's no political representation for these people on the Planning Commission, what I mean is nobody on the Planning Commission is elected.
Is there any other comments? And I just want to thank everyone for coming down to testify on this item. Teresa, can you please call the roll?
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, pardon me. Gosh, that's okay. Yes.
That's okay.
Pardon me.
Need to hear the rules again?
Washington is a yes.
Yeah, Washington is a yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0.
And we're going to bring back Councilwoman Ward.
We had two things in front of us, right?
It's just the one item.
Just the one item. We need.
Okay. Thank you, yes.
They invested all the sewer and everything to serve this, and now we get rid of it
Okay.
and it stays in the
All
county.
right,
and we
so
get
we'll
taxes
start with
out of it.
5A now. Authorizing the Parks and Rec Department submittal of a grant application to the FTA, introduced by McGinnis.
Yes, so moved on you. Yeah, so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington? Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Let's see, 5B is placed on pending. Item 5C, Comp Plan Conformance 19010. This is the Huber Building Redevelopment Project, introduced by McGinnis.
Second. So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. 5D is the report of claims, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Schob. Please call the roll. Or, I'm sorry, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are public hearing ordinances, second reading. Item 6A is approving a real estate sales agreement between the city and Jose Diaz de Leon Garza and Luisa Sanchez Centillion for the sale of city-owned property generally located at 820 South 27th Street.
Good evening again. This is Dan Marvin with Urban Development. I would guess many of you, when you drive down 820 South 27th Street, you wouldn't have noticed a P sign there, but this little piece of property that I think could hold about 6 cars was a city-managed parking lot. And we reviewed our needs for a parking lot in this area, and we didn't see that we needed to be sending out crews to scoop snow and manage this area. So we went through a process where it had been surplused, obviously, and then we put a sign out and advertised it for sale and received this offer that you have before you. It's for $27,000, and we'd recommend approval of this. Do you have any questions?
Penny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Marvin, there was a discussion among the fellow council people last meeting when this first was introduced about when this was surplus. Do you have that date available?
The date of the surplus.
I remember the meeting, and while he's looking for that, while Mr. C is looking, there are 2 other parking lots on that street in nearby. Is that owned by the city?
There is some parking that is on the
northwest corner?
the west side over by the park.
There's a lot near the convenience store, between the convenience store. Is that also a city parking lot?
I'd have to look into that.
Kind of across the street from the hardware store. I'm sorry.
Next to the U-Stop?
Next to the U-Stop.
It could be.
So there's still plenty parking in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, we're not removing parking.
I get lots of calls from people about not being enough parking in the city, so I'm not sure if this is the year they're interested in.
The Parking Enterprise Fund reviewed this parcel, and our hard dollar cost annually are not huge. It's not onerous. It's not going to put us out of business, but they're about $1,100 a year. And I would say we believe it's in our interest to not be managing such a small parcel with the additional liability that you can have on parcels that are spread out over the city. So we're reviewing our ownership of those.
My original question was, how long had this been on the market for sale? We surplused it several months ago.
It's been surplused, and then we would have advertised it for over 30 days, would have had a sign out there, and let the neighbors around this know that this parcel was for sale. We followed the normal procedures that we do for surplusing and sale of all other parcels that we do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are we putting any restrictions on this for building or access or, okay, and the zoning in the area is B1?
It's B4? I thought it was B4, but I believe it's B4.
So there would be 0 side yard, front yards, rear yards. David, would you know?
Commercial.
Hate to put you on the spot, but just wondering what could be built on that.
David Carey with the Planning Department. So I'm trying to go off memory at this point. I believe it is B4. If it is B4, there would not be a parking requirement, but I'm not going to be able to confirm that right now without a little bit of time to look it up.
Right. I thought it was B4. when I looked at it earlier today.
B3
Oh,
is what
okay.
the county assessor has it at.
Tim C. City Law Department, a couple questions. It's B3 zoned.
Okay.
And in terms of the date when it was surplus March 12 of 2018 as ordinance 20641.
Well over a year.
Well over a year.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you all very much.
Tim C. to the rescue.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Okay, let's go on.
All right, next on is item 6B, approving a real estate sales agreement between the city and the Lower Platte South NRD for the sale of city-owned property generally located at 1440 Adams Street.
Good evening. Patrick Boer, Lincoln Fire and Rescue. Lincoln Fire requested or asked that this item be placed on your agenda. We support and approve this real estate agreement. We've worked with Dan Marvin and Urban Development to follow all the procedures necessary to get to this point in time, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Why are we surplusing this piece of property?
We were able to build a new fire station number 10. We refer to this location, 1440 Adams, as old fire station number 10. And we built a new one over on North 24th Street, so we no longer need this facility.
And for clarification, the proceeds from this sale will go into the fire department's land acquisition fund?
Yes, sir. Yep. For the purchase of land for additional stations down the road. Yes, sir.
Terrific. Thank you. Any other questions? Appreciate your coming down.
Real quick.
Oh, Richard, yes.
Not for you, really.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Was this zone P? Are we going to have any zoning change on this? Or is it going to the NRD? Does it stay a public?
It's going to NRD, so I'm assuming it can stay P.
It can stay P.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then this is going to another public agency, so we didn't have to put it on the market, do any type of advertising that it was available.
We would have.
Goes first public agencies have the first right to any other public property, is that correct?
Well, internally, and then we would have appraised the value when we were approached by NRD to come up with a fair value for the property.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify on this item? Let's move forward.
All right, if not, we can move into the voting session. Item 7A, Comp Plan Conformance 18017, declaring 0.53 acres of city-owned property generally located at the northwest corner of North 12th and Oak Streets as surplus, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Schob. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7B is Comp Plan Conformance 19011, declaring city-owned property generally located at 840 West O Street as surplus. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second?
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7C, Text Amendment 19005, application of Civil Design Group and Olson Associates to amend Chapter 27.62, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second?
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7D. is amending Chapter 9.36 of the Lincoln Municipal Code entitled Weapons by adding a new section numbered 9.36.032, requiring the timely report to the Lincoln Police Department of firearms lost or stolen within the city limits, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second?
Actually, you're going to have to pass the gavel before you can do that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. And who seconded?
Ward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can we have discussion, or is there a motion?
There is a motion to amend. There is a motion for a substitute amendment that actually deletes line item 3, which was the requirement for law enforcement to state the reason why this firearm was missing and the circumstances. That line was removed.
Okay. Motion to amend,
Do we have a second?
Second?
and seconded by Ward. Any discussion on the amendment? Roy?
Yes, in preparation for this vote, I met with, or took the advice of a couple attorneys and looked at this in regard to the Constitution of the State of Nebraska, Bill of Rights, Article 1, Article 1, -1, a Statement of Rights, which is very specific about the right to keep and bear arms. It says for the security, defense, hunting, recreational use, to self-defense of family, home, others for lawful common defense, and reviewed that in regards to this whole thing. And the conclusion basically was, with the removal of line 3, that this amendment does, that there does not appear to be any conflict easily identifiable with the state constitution. So, and I also spoke with a defense attorney who found that to be the same conclusion, that he felt comfortable with the removal of line 3, that this would be appropriate.
Okay. Any other discussion? Jane?
Well, I also had an opportunity to reach out to many people for their suggestions on how we can improve this, and it was certainly a recommendation of law enforcement that they support this ordinance, and made that same suggestion.
Further discussion? Yes.
Are we discussing the amendment now, or the
amendment.
Just
Just the amendment.
Well, I'll get another chance to speak on the full ordinance.
Yes, you will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Okay, now we're on the amended motion, which has been moved and seconded. Discussion on the main motion.
Mr. Chair, yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate what we're trying to do here. I do have some concerns about whether this will make our community safer or not. We heard a lot of testimony last week about ways it would help our community and ways it would not. There were a lot of concerned citizens that felt that we might be criminalizing people in our community. But I think this has an opportunity to do some good, and I'm going to support it for that reason.
Okay, thank you. Jane?
Well, I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that the Second Amendment is unimpeachable. We recognize that it is a right, but with that right comes additional responsibilities, not only to ensure your family's safety, but the public safety. That means reporting a lost or stolen firearm is a responsibility. You know, in Lincoln, in 2017, we had 143 guns stolen. And out of that, 40 were stolen from vehicles. In 2018, just last year, we had 148 guns stolen. 22 of those were stolen from vehicles. You know, currently, the Nebraska State Patrol is required to inform each permit holder for a concealed handgun that if a handgun or other firearm owned by such permit holder is lost or stolen, the permit holder should notify his or her county sheriff or local police department of that fact. We are making it a requirement and we're making it mandatory. We want, and law enforcement cares deeply about preventing the tragic use of a stolen firearm. And I just want to reiterate what Chief Bleimeister provided in his testimony last week. If you report a lost or stolen firearm, it allows law enforcement to enter that into the national and local database to assist other law enforcement in solving crimes. It also initiates an investigative process focused on the recovery of fingerprints, DNA, and other evidence that by its very nature is fragile, and the potential for recovery dissipates over time. It also initiates an investigative process to search for video evidence, and we know that that's very important in helping solve crimes. Also, stolen firearms are not only a risk to the safety of the public, but also to that of law enforcement. This information is shared at daily and monthly briefings with our law enforcement. A lost or stolen firearm draws additional review by members of the Criminal Investigative Unit. So I consider it my obligation as an elected official to keep our families and our community safe. And that is why I am supporting this ordinance.
Any further discussion? Yes, Roy?
Yeah, I'd like to just review, again, before this amendment came forward, I was not going to be able to support this. And I'd just like to read the Article 1 of the Bill of Rights of the State of Nebraska Constitution, because I think this has more immediate impact than, and is more explicit than the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It says, all persons are by nature free and independent and have certain inherent and inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the right to keep and bear arms, for security or defense of self, family, home, and others, and for the lawful common defense, hunting, recreational use, and all other lawful purposes, and such rights shall not be denied or infringed by the state or any subdivision thereof. I think with the removal of line 3, that talks about requiring the reporting of the time, place, and manner of the theft, that it upholds Article 1 of the Bill of Rights for the state of Nebraska. I'd also like to point out that some of the objections we've received on the council to this was that concealed carry permit holders, this would put them in a bind somehow. But the truth of the matter is the state law already has significantly higher responsibilities for concealed carry permit holders than are outlined in this ordinance change. So, and I suggest if you have a concealed carry permit or contemplating getting one, you find out what those requirements are, but they're significantly broader restrictions and responsibilities outlined in that state law. So I will be able to support this today because of the amendment.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, please call a roll on the motion.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Passing the gavel back to
Okay.
Jane.
Resolutions on first reading are items 8A through C. Ordinances first reading, we just have the one item 9A. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is an open microphone session.
Is there anyone that would like to come forward?
Madam Chair, members of the council, my name is Eric Foster, 1920 J Street, apartment 7. This was just a random thought that came up to me during the discussion about the Huber redevelopment. I believe it was during the Huber redevelopment project, not about that specifically, but one of the aspects I liked about that discussion was the fact that the money that was going to be used for that, TIF money, I believe, was going to also, not just the building, but the alley next to it. And I'm not sure you are aware, I'm sure that the alleys in the downtown area are crumbling, literally crumbling. That's the best word I can use. And I am a pedestrian in downtown. I ride my bike in downtown. But also, even if you're driving with the one-way street, sometimes you have to go through an alley, and you know how, you probably are aware how bad of a situation that is in alleys. I know that there were some public hearings about the money that's going to be the new road road money that's going to. I didn't bother to participate in those because I didn't figure anybody would be sympathetic to putting any of that money towards alleyways. But I think it's needed, and because they are used. And I will give an example: the alleyway in the Haymarket. Excuse me. Is the one that's with the neon lights above it. I mean, I realize that not every alley can be like that, but it's gained a lot of pedestrian traffic through there. I mean, people gather in there, and people love that space. And a lot of the alleys in the Haymarket, with all the redevelopments that's been going on, that's really, a lot of the alleyways have been improved in that, and has made the whole area much more conducive to pedestrians and businesses, and there's people crawling all over the place in the Haymarket 24/7. And again, I realize that not every alleyway can be perfect, but I think it's important for the downtown area. And so with this particular thing that was mentioned tonight about the money being used, in addition to the building itself, the alleyways as well, next to it. I think it's a great mechanism to use in the future. So I think in future projects like this, I would urge the council to maybe look at that. Hey, how can we improve not just the place itself, but maybe a section next to it, an alleyway, a sidewalk perhaps, to help the whole area instead of just one particular building. That's what I had to say. Random thought, like I said.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foster. I too share that concern and passion that we address our alleys, because you're right. I love your comment that the alley with the additional illumination and artwork has really become a gathering place. It's a place that's very welcoming because it's actually even brighter than some alleyways, and so it is a more welcoming space. So yes, I think your message is well received, and we will certainly look forward to working with future projects that involve tax increment financing to make sure that they do include alley improvements.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Foster? Is there anyone else that would like to come before us for open mic? Roy.
I'd like to thank Troop 30 for sticking through this entire meeting.
Yes.
And I'd like to say, remember the golden rule, and I move adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Please call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes,
Motion carried, 7-0.
we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Troop 30.